Good evening. I'm Scott Budman, NBC 11 business and technology reporter and the host of Tech Now. In the 10 years I've been reporting here, I've been impressed with several aspects of the Silicon Valley: the genius, entrepreneurial spirit, work ethic, and the educational foundation which has allowed the Valley to innovate, solve problems, and thrive. But the rest of the world has been watching and catching up, duplicating the architecture of Silicon Valley success. In a global economy, the Valley has new challenges. When Frank Green came to Silicon Valley 40 years ago, there was still some skepticism about semiconductors becoming a long-term business, much less an industry. Back then, a $20 million company was a big business.
By the 80s, semiconductors had become a worldwide technology that was being used and developed and built in many places in the world, and certainly that continued on through the 90s.
Meanwhile, engineers organized to better deal with Silicon Valley's rapid change. Some 30,000 engineers in 20 societies came together under the nonprofit umbrella of the Silicon Valley Engineering Council. Joe Lewis was its first president.
One day, Jay told me, really we have too many organizations as to, civil engineers, electrical mechanicals, the women's, and so on and so forth. He said, it would be a good idea to establish one organization that we could kind of group them all together.
And our major focus was on the education part. Looking at K through 12, what can we do to help that program? Looking at the universities, how can we put together a structure to help in the engineering curriculum.
The council also created continuing education for engineers.
This organization have exposed the people and the profession that we are part of this society, and Silicon Valley is really us, and that's very important.
Mir Pirik is an entrepreneur reaching for opportunity with a global communications venture. He sees technology everywhere, at work, in our homes, and in driving between them.
The other day, I was in Taiwan, and my son was in his Prius car. He had kind of forgotten, as he always normally does, where his dad is, and he calls me, my office number, from his Bluetooth phone in his Prius car, hands-free. The call gets routed to my office. My office knows I'm in Taiwan. On voice over IP in my hotel room, the phone rings, and I answer it. Hey, Dad, can you kind of pick up a quart of milk on the way home? Sorry, son, I'm in Taiwan. Kind of stuff. Amazing.
A lesson with humor on technology changing lives. But what determines technology's changes? Its future. History has proven education as key to economies based on technology. Smart people can be sought overseas or as the product of local K through 12 education.
You find that we have probably less than 10% of the graduating seniors today from high school meet the minimum requirements to enter into many of our universities in the engineering and science type curriculum. We need to address that issue.
There are two areas in which I think we need to do a better job. We need to do a better job of attracting a broader talent pool into engineering, sciences, mathematics. That means we've got to attract more women, an issue that's become recently very topical. We also need to do a better job of attracting minorities into the discipline. We cannot afford to be in a situation where we're only looking at half the population as a base for attracting this talent pool.
A vision for talent looks beyond flags, race, and gender. And for latent talent to grow and be realized, there must be vision.
I still remember the role models that I looked up to. I was a chemist, and the reason is Marie Curie. She had done it first. And I remembered that she had gotten 2 Nobel Prizes for her work. It's the people who count. As we go along in our career, we discover that you can do most anything if you really put your mind to it and work hard, but you cannot do it alone. You need the help and support of others, and it's a wonderful, wonderful story that now we have many, many young women. I'm reminded of a wonderful magazine that Fortune presented, the 50 most powerful women in the USA. That was such a thrill to me.
If Silicon Valley is to be a hub for global collaboration, engineers need to be trained less for independent roles and more for work within groups.
I think education needs to have some focus on how we collaborate and how do we understand the cultures and begin to respect what other people in the world can do without thinking we're the only game in town.
I'm truly passionate about helping young people born and raised here in Silicon Valley see the excitement and the thrill of working in engineering.
For 15 years, the Silicon Valley Engineering Council has recognized engineers through its Hall of Fame, honoring professional accomplishment, service to the profession, and service to the community.
I really believe in many cases that the Hall of Fame is mature enough that it should look at, one would say, all the pioneers of the Valley under this umbrella, which might include, the venture capitalists as an example, because they themselves were a major pioneer in the Valley in regard to the development of Silicon Valley. We should document the history of these individuals. It's very important to look at the past and the history of the past to plan for the future. As Yogi Berra once said, if you get to a fork in the road, take it. And that's what's happened when you don't use history to plan for the future.
Pinson says that as education faces evolution, so too must the Silicon Valley Engineering Council. Tasks include involving engineers in creating wealth and jobs, and finding a permanent home for its Hall of Fame.
I think as we can start to work with other parts of the world, I think the Valley will have a better chance of not only surviving but maybe thriving. Certainly technology like nanotechnology is being developed here, as it is in other places. But I think the biggest challenge is for people in the Valley to start recognizing they're just part of a group, and this is a global group.
Silicon Valley is not the center of the universe as we once thought it was. On the other hand, it is a very important part of the universe. It can and it still be the center of the creativity of the universe. Why? Because we are fortunate enough to have a great institution of learning.
Realizing global collaboration, there should always be opportunity.